Hey Joey, I am directly under the big light, so I feel like I am so bright. But anyway, it is now November, so I thought we could go through my October TBR, because I so boldly put it out on the internet. And we can talk about which books I did read, which books I didn't read, the various excuses I have come up with as to why I didn't read some of them, and then we'll also go through the books that I read that weren't on my TBR. And yeah, well, it's just a cutie little October wrap-up, but we'll start with, did I finish my October TBR? Spoiler alert, no. Starting out, we have a couple good ones right in a row. So the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, I did read. I rated it 4 stars. It was fun. It was a good time. I read it all in one sitting. I got a hand cramp from holding it open. I think that the font and I don't even know, the formatting, I guess, is kind of atrocious. But other than that, I really liked it. So, first one, I did read. Guess what? I read this one too. The Dead Romantics. I read this on Halloween, on the last day of October. I gave it 4.5 stars. I cried. If you know anything about me, I guess, I don't know if that's a spoiler. There's a part of this that hits really close to home. Oh, it does say it on the back. So, okay. This is a magical realism about a ghostwriter, like she ghostwrites for a popular romance author, and she recently went through a breakup, and so she doesn't believe in love anymore, so she's really struggling to write the final book in this book deal for this author. She gets a new editor. He's hot. Then it turns out that her dad passes away, and so she has to go home and deal with that. But on top of all of that, she can see ghosts. Her and her dad could both see ghosts. That was something they shared. And so she's seeing ghosts. And she sees a familiar face in one of the ghosts back home. And so on. Stuff happens. I rated it 4.5 stars. I really like Ashley Poston's books. I think that if I had to rank them in the ones I've read so far, I'd say The 7 Year Slip, and then this, and then a novel love story. That would be, I think, the order in which I would rank those, but so I liked that a lot. I listened to most of it on audio through Spotify. I was on a real audiobook kick, let me tell you what. So I listened to most of that, but then I ended up finishing it with my eyeballs because I really wanted to know what happened and it wasn't going fast enough. So, and then we have another yes. I did read Daydream finally. This has been on 3 monthly TBRs since it came out because I was afraid to read it. And the reasons I was afraid to read it are not the reasons I should have been afraid to read it. I was afraid to read it because I had been hearing mixed reviews. And I'm really trying to not listen to other people's reviews in a way that affects my reading. Yes, I want to know what you thought, but whether or not somebody liked it, I don't want that to stop me from reading it, if that makes sense. But I was just worried about it because I really like the other books in this series. I really like Hannah Grace, and so I just wanted, I was just worried about it. But the reason I should have been worried about it is because, a lot of stuff that Henry does, pierced me into my soul about the way that he just kind of goes about the world, and similarly with some of the stuff that Hallie does. It's just a deep book, kind of. Yes, it's a hockey romance. Yes, there are lots of Taylor Swift references. Yes, it's fake dating, but it's also friends to lovers. At its deepest core, it's friends to lovers, and I love friends to lovers, and I love these two. I gave this 4.5 stars as well. I'm in a weird place with reading right now where I feel like nothing has taken hold of my soul pretty much since I read One Dark Window. So there's that. I'm also more in a fantasy, like it's the time of year for fantasy, so like the fantasies I'm reading are the ones that are really like drawing me in, but I love to read romance, so 4.5 stars for Daydream. Then we get into some no's. These I did not read. Saving and Redeeming 6, mostly Saving 6, was on the October TBR. I'm still terrified of this. I still am not in an emotional state to read Saving 6, so it just isn't happening. I'm gonna stop putting it on TBRs because as much as I want to read it, I think I'll know when I'm ready, and so I don't need to be like forcing it by trying to put it on TBR. So those two I did not read. This next one I didn't read, but I have an excuse for it. I know that was just an excuse, but I have a real one. So Small Favors was our book club book for October, but then we decided to not do book club this month and instead do it in November because you will be home, and so we can have in-person book club. And so I didn't read it because I didn't have to. And I know I could have read it early, but I want us to be able to, like, I don't hold stuff in my brain for long enough. I wouldn't have remembered any particulars if I read it now and then we discussed it in November. So this I didn't read, but it's going right on to the November TBR because I will need to read it at that point. This is like a yes-no. I did read Bloodlines. I made a whole vlog on it. It is a spoiler vlog, so if you're not Joey and have read it, feel free to watch it. If you haven't read it, read it and then watch it. Or if you're like me and you have the memory of a goldfish, watch it anyway, and then eventually you'll want to read it because it sounds so great based on my vlog, and then you'll choose to read it and you won't actually remember any of those things. That's what I did with Larry posted spoiler vlogs for all of Zodiac Academy, and I do kind of want to read those, but I watched the full spoiler versions because I remember basically nothing, so yeah. So I did read Daydream. I gave it 4 stars. Is that true? Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. It was a great beginning to the series. I liked it. I did not read The Golden Lily because I didn't end up finishing Bloodlines until like halfway through the month, and I didn't want to like read these back to back, and since I'm vlogging them, it like takes it, it's just different. I was trying to read other stuff on the TBR. This wasn't like an urgent one because I'll read it in November. I'm just reading that series as I go. We have 2 more no's, starting out with Immortal Dark. I might put this onto the November TBR, or I might just keep it in mind during November, because Rachel is reading it right now, and she said that she's liking it a lot, and I know that I will like it. It just wasn't calling to me, and this month I did a lot of stuff on audio. Nothing I've shown so far, because those were physical, like that's part of the reason I didn't get to the whole October TBR is because most of the books that I read in this stack of ones that weren't on the TBR were ones that I listened to because that's just where I found time to read this month, was via my ears. So I didn't want to audiobook this. I wanted to read it with my hands, but I didn't have time to read as much stuff with my hands, so I didn't read it. Does that make sense? I'm not sure, but so this one is a no, unfortunately. And then this is that second no that I was speaking about. So The God of the Woods. I thought this was going to be spookier. It was also a book of the month book for me, so I was like, maybe I can get one of those off of my TBR, because I have like 4 or 5 book of the month books I haven't caught up on yet. But it is set in the summer. And so even though it's like kind of spooky because like people are going missing, it is set at a summer camp. And I wasn't feeling that, so I didn't read it. Excuses. But this last one I did read, much to my chagrin, Gone Girl. I just didn't feel thrilled. Like I hated both of the characters. I kind of didn't care what happened. I listened to this, and I just, like the whole time I was just kind of like, I was either meh or like annoyed. And so I read it, I gave it 3 stars. It's off my TBR, but I didn't, nah. So that is everything that was on my October TBR that I did or did not read. And then here's what I actually read in October other than those ones that I mentioned. So these are in no particular order, they are just stacked here. So I listened to Alias Emma by Ava Glass. I ended up giving this 4 stars. This is a spy book. So she works for British intelligence and she gets assigned this like guy who's needs to be hidden from the Russian GRE who's like hunting them down in London, and so overnight, like under the cover of darkness, they have to hide from all the cameras in London, which there are like a million of them, and try and get from one side of the city to the other so that he can be safe. And like, so like the whole book is over the course of one night. And so we learn some stuff about her, we learn some stuff about him, we like fight some agents, we hide from cameras. It was fast paced, and I gave it 4.25 stars. I think I just said that I gave it 4 stars, but that was a lie. I gave it 4.25 stars. It was fun, and I liked it, so. Then I also listened to The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, because this should have been on the October TBR if I was being honest with myself, because it's spooky season type stuff. This is, she's a witch, like a real witch with magic, and in this magic system, witches don't like share that they have powers. There are people who don't, they're just regular people, and then there are witches, and the witches kind of keep it a secret. And so they also don't congregate, because if there are too many of them, then like the magic gets called and it's like more possible that people will find out about their magic and whatever. And she pretends to be a witch online. Like that's her kind of careers, that she makes YouTube videos about witch stuff. And then she ends up taking a job at this house to teach 3 young witches, and the librarian there is hot, and it's like a little found family moment. I liked it. I gave it, excellent question, I also gave this 4.25 stars because it was fun and I liked it. I also listened to Belladonna and Phlox. I also listened to Belladonna and Foxglove, book 1 and 2 of the Belladonna trilogy. I really liked both of these. I gave Belladonna 5 stars because I was like blushing and giggling and kicking my feet about Death, who's the love interest in this book, and I just really enjoyed it. I was like fully sucked in. I had a great time. In Foxglove, I ended up giving it 4.5 stars, I want to say. I gave Foxglove 4.5 stars because the middle of it kind of dragged for me. Like I felt like we got to an impassable point, and like all I wanted was for us to get through it, and it took a little bit longer than I would have liked, so I gave that 4.5 stars. I'd love to read Wisteria, but I am waiting for it to come from my library, and it says it's going to be another like 8 weeks, so. But I don't want to have to buy it, so I'm hoping it'll come from the library a little faster than that, but I am willing to wait because I don't want to read it with my eyes. I want to listen to it because the audiobook narrators are so good. So yes, that's those two. I also listened to, when I said that I was in an audiobook kick, I mean it. I listened to The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. This is like a murder mystery type deal, but it's sort of Groundhog's Day. So basically, Evelyn Hardcastle is murdered, and our main character is being like put in, like he wakes up in the body of one of the guests, like 8 nights in a row, basically. So he gets all of their perspectives, and then he's trying to solve the murder. And if he solves the murder before the 8th night or whatever, however many nights he gets, then he like wins, basically. So it's like sort of Groundhog's Day, but sort of just like time loop, but he gets different perspectives on the murder every day, so that it's easier for him to figure it out, I guess. So that was this. I gave this 4.25 stars because I liked it and I was intrigued the whole time, and the ending didn't make me irrationally angry because of it was dumb or anything like that, so 4.25 stars for that. I finally finished the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. Going into this, I was nervous because everybody who read this when it came out said that they were disappointed by it, and I understand why. I think that I have a unique perspective on it because I listened to The Ballad of Never After like a while ago, like probably 3 or 4 months ago, so it was far enough away that I didn't remember like every detail as if I had read them like right in a row, but it also wasn't so long ago that I hadn't been like stewing on some of like the plot pieces, because I do think that people's complaints with this were that like not everything was wrapped up, but I wasn't focused on those things, I guess. Maybe it's just the way that I read, whatever. But so I also listened to this, fun fact. And I'm glad that I finished the trilogy. I gave this 4.5 stars. It wasn't my favorite one in the series. I prefer, like, I think that A Ballad of Never After is a better book than this one. But it was still good. I still like the series as a whole, so. And then I listened to, are all of these audiobooks? I literally think every single one of these is audiobooks, except for the, like, 2 I read on my Kindle. So I listened to Deeper Than Money by Chloe Elise. I had been trying to read this. I made it all of like 20 pages in like the, in this hardcover edition, but I just, this is nonfiction. It's like about money, and like her sort of outlook on money and investing and savings and budgeting and yada yada. This is an alum of my college. I really like the way that she goes about money stuff as a woman in her 20s, and so I wanted to read it, and so I bought it on Audible because she reads it, and so it was good. I don't rate nonfiction, so, but I think people should read it because it was good. The last 2 I have here physically that I listened to are The Ex-Hex and The Kiss Curse. This also should have been on my October TBR because I owned this physically, and I bought it last September, and so I should have read it last October, but I didn't, so it should have gone on this October's TBR, but for some reason I didn't put it on there, but I did read it. I listened to it. How many times? Like, take a shot every time I say I listened to something. But I listened to it, and then I had so much fun with it that I then listened to and bought The Kiss Curse. And then, like, the week after I read these, The Wedding Witch came out, which is the 3rd one, but I think that's a Christmas book. I think I've literally mentioned that in every vlog I've posted this month. Anyway, I think that The Wedding Witch is a Christmas book, so I'm gonna read it maybe at the end of November or the beginning of December. But I really liked both of these. I gave them both 4 stars. The same kind of deal as The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches and The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. Just like autumnal, fall, Halloween, like Hallmark movie type books. The audiobooks for both of these are really good because the guys are English, so like they have British accents, and it's just fun. I like them. The last couple things that I read that I don't own, I read Forbidden Hearts by Corinne Michaels on my Kindle. I wasn't in the right mood to read this when I read it. I wanted to read something on my Kindle. I wanted to read something by a new author. This is the thing that I picked, but I didn't like actually read what it was about. It had just been downloaded on my Kindle, and I was like, guess I'll pick this. And so I don't know that I gave it a fair shot. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. It just like, it wasn't what I was looking for at the time, and so I kind of like sped through it, and I didn't like, I don't know. I'm gonna keep trying Corinne Michaels. The fact that I didn't love this one isn't gonna change the fact that I want to read more stuff by her, but I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. It was fine. I also read Perfect Wreckage, which I think is book 2 in the Wrecked series by Catherine Cowles. This is the last series by her I have left to finish, other than the one that's obviously coming out. and so I've been taking them kind of slowly, reading them every once in a while. That's the first book I read this month. I gave that 4.25 stars. It was good. I like all of Catherine Cowell's books. Sue me. And then the last thing I listened to that I do not own is Lights Out by Nevessa Allen. Listen, the clips of this book were going viral, at least on my TikTok, and it was giving me Butcher and Blackbird vibes with the, like, funny dark romance rom-com situation. And so Jacob Morgan is the male narrator for this book, and he's so funny. And, like, I don't know how to explain this, but the way that he narrates is the way that people talk. Like, at one point he was, like, reading as the main guy and the main guy's roommate. And the roommate gets up off the couch to go do something. And you can hear that, like, he is, like, standing up in the... Like, he's, like... You can hear in his voice that he's getting up. Does that make sense? So I was, like, fully immersed. It was like I was watching a TV show. And dark romance is not my thing, per se. I am not a frequent dark romance reader. I have read a little bit. I did sort of speed through some of the spice chapters because that's just the way that I choose to live my life, but every other part of it was so funny for no reason. I guess for a reason. That was the purpose of the book, but the TikTok clips did convince me to read it. I did listen to it. I thought it was funny. I gave it 4 stars. I liked it. Sue me. Oh, they do fit. Oh, no, okay. These are the things that I read this month, plus those last 3 things I mentioned that I don't own. But, okay, so I read 18 books in October, which is way more than I thought I was gonna have read, because I don't think I finished anything until, like, the 4th or 5th of the month. Which literally doesn't matter when you finish stuff or how many books you read, in case I haven't been clear about that. I'm really weird about the number of books that I read, but I don't give a damn if you read 3 pages a month. Reading is reading, and I think that's great. But I read 18 books, and 15 of them were on my physical TBR, which I'd say is a pretty good ratio. I didn't read 6 of the 11 on my October TBR, but if you count the fact that the X-Hex and the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches should have been on there, then I read 7 of 13. Is that the math there? Yeah. 7 of 13, which is more than half. So I'm counting it. I think that I did a great job. And I can't wait to read in November. I have no idea what that TBR is going to look like. I probably won't make a video because it is already the 2nd. Not that it really matters when I post it, but I haven't decided. I might not actually make a TBR. I might just read, you know. I have an ARC for November that I just got yesterday. I am coming to Arizona to one of the Lost and Lassoed events for Lila Sage, so I'll be reading that. Thinking about audiobooking it. Who knows, since I'm in my audiobook era. Should we do some stats? Should we throw some stats in here? Oh my god! I forgot one! No! Okay. I also read Sunlight by Devney Perry. I got the ARC for that. It was so good. That little, like, duet of Crossroads and Sunlight is so good. Sunlight is an accidental pregnancy romance. I've talked about it in another vlog. I read it in that. And it is so good because at no point does the child become a conflict, and he is just, like, down bad from the get-go, but it's not, like, insta-love because it takes place over, like, a long time period. It's so good! I gave it 4.5 stars, but, man. So read Sunlight, because I can't believe I forgot about it. I just have the memory of a goldfish, and I don't own it, and I have object permanence problems. So, I also read Sunlight. So as it turns out, I read 18 books, and 14 of them were on my physical TBR. So, okay, back to the stats. So, 3 ebooks, 12 on audiobook. A couple of those I also read some of it on, like, the paperback or whatever, but but 12 of 18 is quite a few. 2 in paperback, and literally just the 1 hardcover. I read Bloodlines with the hardcover, and that was all. So, an audio-heavy month because I was doing a lot of other things with my hands. I was cleaning and working and whatever else. So, that's everything that I read in October. I am hopeful for my reading in November, because I'll be on a couple planes. Love reading on a plane. I'll be with you in Arizona. We love reading. If we can stop yapping for a second. Catch you next time.